let's dive into more of the big stories this morning. Nikki Haley criticizing Donald Trump. And she said that he has engineered a skewed primary process. So this was yesterday. She said it's ironic that Trump, who has talked about his 2020 election loss a lot, is now trying to bully his way to the 2024 Republican nomination. Try to keep your breakfast down while I share this, okay? I'm sorry. I can't help myself. I can't go through this with a straight face. She said it's ironic for somebody who says that the election was stolen from him. He's now showing that he's going to bully his way through to try and win this election. Exactly how has he done that? She went on to, doesn't Nikki Haley sound more and more like a Democrat to you? She does. She sounds more and more like a leftist to me. She said, and I'm not saying this because she's opposing Trump. Nikki Haley could be running, and she could be running like, let's say, for instance, Senator Tim Scott. Tim Scott was running a campaign, but you know what? I never got mad at Senator Tim Scott. Or Ron DeSantis. I never found myself getting angry at them for the stuff they were saying. But Nikki Haley, she's got more in common right now with Hillary Clinton than she does with me. I mean, seriously. So she went on to say, excuse me, my medication makes me cough, so my apologies. She went on to say that the reason Trump is trying so hard to win the election is because he needs to get off all of these court issues that he's dealing with. And I think Americans need to see this for what it is, she said. Well, I think that too. I think Americans need to see this for what it is. It's not through the Nikki Haley prism of the world that I'm seeing it. So she lost, as you know, the count in Nevada, and she said, "Oh, we don't even count Nevada." She said, "No, we don't even count that." So she did trying to downplay this, and she's calling the caucus rigged. Oh, it's rigged. So I'm not the only one who's having a tough time with this. Matt Vespa over at townhall.com. He's got a piece this morning, and it's Nikki Haley's explanation for her crushing Nevada loss is pathetic. Yeah, that would be one word for it. I could think of others. It is pathetic. Absolutely correct. Vespa is, I don't agree. Again, Matt Vespa is one of these guys. I don't agree with him all the time. He's over at townhall.com. I don't agree with him all the time. But he's a thinker. He sees through the nonsense. And I think that's hard to find these days. So here's a story from CBS. Let's go to the legacy media, the state media, and their reporting. So CBS News said the headline of the story caught my attention. Haley's loss to none of these candidates in Nevada was a coordinated effort, says CBS. And so they talked to the Trump caucus captains in Nevada. And Trump caucus captains told CBS News that they encouraged their support. Now, keep in mind, they're Trump supporters, right? They're Trump supporters. So they told their supporters to check the box for none of these candidates on the Nevada primary ballot. And then they talked to one of these caucus captains, and she says, I tell people if they want to vote for Trump, they have to go to the caucus and to vote none of the above. If they are a Haley candidate, I say, go ahead. So go ahead and vote. But if you want to vote for Trump, you have to go to the caucus. Now, first of all, who in the hell is surprised that politics is playing part in politics? Right? And CBS, is this news to CBS that political campaigns are coordinated, in their words, coordinated efforts? I mean, any successful campaign is a coordinated effort. Now, that might be news over at CBS. Certainly not news to me. No, and I know it's not to you either. I mean, again, I look at so much of this stuff, and it's just common sense. This is just common sense. And you have CBS acting like they're absolute buffoons again. What did you hear from this Trump caucus captain? I tell people if they want to vote for Trump, they have to go to the caucus and to vote none of the above. If they want to vote for Trump. If they like Nikki Haley, I say, go ahead. But if you want to vote for Trump, you have to go to the caucus. So what does this show? So in other words, nobody is saying this, so I'll say it. In other words, none of the above, what was that a vote for? Donald Trump. Those were all the Trump people saying, none of the above. We're going to the caucus to vote for Trump. So she gets smashed by none of the above. In other words, people supporting Trump. So she's dead. She is dead. I mean, her campaign, politically, her campaign is dead. And then when she's out there and she's getting angry and Donald Trump, and I thought, you know what? I've seen this before. It's when Hillary Clinton was running against Donald Trump. I mean, it was the same kind of thing. This is like Hillary 2.0. Nikki Haley in these comments, it's just amazing to me. Honestly, it's shocking. One of a number of things that are shocking this morning in Bizarro World, my friend. And so we go to the U.S. Senate and what's going on over there. So now we have seen all kinds of what happened with the border, with this bill that Republicans were working on that would have sent the money to Ukraine, provided money for the border, also sent money to Israel, and it unraveled. So again, the Republicans hearing about this, so I just want to share the headline from the Daily Mail. Daily Mail says this: Republicans officially tank their own $118 billion border security bill. Conservative senators tear into Mitch McConnell as GOP package unravels in just 72 hours after months of negotiations. Okay, here's what's important to say. The months of negotiations did not involve these senators who are now tearing it apart. In fact, they only learned about, months of negotiations. And you and I are, of course, supposed to believe these are, it was painstaking. Oh, months we went through this. It was just painstaking to go through all of this. Meanwhile, you've got the U.S., the individual Senate members who knew nothing. They knew nothing about it. So again, the headline's a little misleading because almost leading you to believe, now here in 72 hours, they've crushed this thing because they just found out about it. And really what this shows, what this exposes big time this week, what it really exposes is that the Republican leadership in the Senate is completely ineffective and inept. It is time for a change in Senate Republican leadership. Mitch McConnell is inept. Absolutely inept. And he doesn't understand his own base, his fellow Republican senators. He doesn't understand, or he either doesn't understand or doesn't care. And then you start wondering because of his age, he's up there in years like Joe Biden. What's going on with Mitch McConnell? I believe for a long time he's a sellout. And now this whole thing, it's just incredible. So these conservative senators tearing this apart in 72 hours. Yeah, because when they heard about it, when they got the details, not much. Just hours before you and I learned about it. They were hearing about it. And they went nuts. They went nuts over this thing. Understandably so. I've been going nuts. You got to believe a lot of other Americans have been too. So it just shows the Republican. I'll go to a piece at National Review. This is from National Review. Jim Garrity, he's got a piece. Headline, The Self-Defeating Republican Party. And I thought, I got to look at this because he's, of course, absolutely right. That headline grabbed my attention. And it says, on the menu today, the Democrats wake up every morning wanting to beat the Republicans. But they'll never be as good at beating the Republicans as the Republicans are at beating themselves. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And then he goes on to talk about, spending months insisting that U.S. aid to Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan had to be tied to a border security proposal. House Republicans then said that proposal dead on arrival. And then Garrity goes on to say there are good reasons to be dissatisfied with the compromise proposal, but it puts everything back to square one. And then he talked about the attempt to try to pass a standalone bill for aid to Israel. That failed. The Republican effort then to impeach Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas failed. And this just goes on. He goes on with a long list of number of failures that have occurred. The self-defeating Republican Party, it's like, no kidding. No kidding. It was as bad as the Democrat. All the Democrats have to do, if they want to see the Republicans fail right now, and this has been the case for a long time, unfortunately. I wish it weren't. But all the Democrats really have to do, if they were smart, just shut up and get out of the way. Get out of the way. I've said this before in terms of, if I got a caller that calls in and they're just getting crazy, you know what I do? I get out of the way. I just let them go. And I'm like, okay, those are your thoughts. They're not mine. But, why don't the Democrats just get out of the way? They don't even have to do anything. You don't even have to respond. But, of course, they can't help themselves. They can't keep their mouths shut. They can't help themselves. It's just nuts. Story at foxnews.com this morning talking about the headline caught my attention. Frustrated Republicans leave Capitol Hill after back-to-back defeats on Mayorkas impeachment, Israel aid. And I want to share the comments of Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky because I think he's absolutely right about something here. Massie said, talking about both of these, the Mayorkas impeachment and aid over Israel and all this, just a train wreck. And he called it an unmitigated disaster. He said, I don't think either of those votes moved our party or our country forward. And then he said, I think he's right about this. He said that ousted former Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he brought his name up. And here's what he said. He said, I don't think we would have had that vote on Israel. I mean, what did it accomplish? And then I think it was embarrassing to lose the vote on Mayorkas. And I think under McCarthy, we would have either had the votes or we would not have voted on it. And I think that's right. Either you have the votes. One of the things when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House, you've got it. Pelosi's a shrewd politician. I mean, this is not praise of Nancy Pelosi. I disagree with her on any host of a number of things. But she was a shrewd politician. And if Nancy Pelosi did not have the votes, she would not bring the issue forward. She would not bring the bill forward. She would wait, and they'd do some additional work. And if they could get the votes, then they would bring the bill forward. But if they could not whip the votes, they would not, they would not have the whole chamber vote if there was not support. And I think Speaker Johnson has got something to learn here in all of this, and I hope he does. Because now, and I'm not so sure he has, because Speaker Johnson, in regard to the Mayorkas debacle, he said yesterday, last night was a setback, but democracy is messy. Yeah, democracy is messy, but you are the Speaker of the House. Why did you bring votes forward knowing that they wouldn't pass? I think that's shirking responsibility when he says that. Well, democracy is a messy process. Yeah, absolutely is. We all know that. We've all heard that. But you are the Speaker of the House. You are the guy who could have made the decision. We do not have the vote. Unless you know you've got the votes, you don't bring it forward. Nancy Pelosi knew it. Kevin McCarthy knew it. And some are saying, well, we got to give Speaker Johnson time to learn. That, to me, I'm not even a member of Congress, and I get it. He should have known that from the get-go. It's just an unmitigated disaster, as Representative Tom Massie has said.